For decades, Harem Scarem drummer Darren Smith has shared his incredible talent and love of music with fans around the world. Now, Darren and his family are facing an incredibly difficult time as he battles early-onset dementia. A GoFundMe has been created to help support Darren and his family through the challenges ahead. If Darren or his music has ever meant something to you, please consider donating or simply sharing his story. Let's stand behind Darren and his family when they need us the most.
Today, I'm going to introduce someone who has spent decades making his mark in the world of rock music. He is a Canadian singer, songwriter, musician, producer, and recording engineer who began his musical career at a young age. In the late 1980s, he helped form a rock band in Toronto alongside guitarist Pete Lesperance. That band would become Harem Scarem. Harem Scarem released their first album in 1991 and became known for their combination of melodic hard rock, powerful vocals, impressive guitar playing, and especially their huge vocal harmonies. Their second album, Mood Swings, became one of the most important albums of their career. It featured songs such as Honestly, which became one of the band's best-known tracks. Over the years, Harem Scarem developed a loyal fan base around the world and established themselves as an important name in melodic rock. But the person I'm introducing today hasn't only made his mark as a performer. Throughout his career, he has also worked behind the scenes as a songwriter, producer, and recording engineer, giving him a unique understanding of both performing and creating music. With an incredible career spanning more than 3 decades, he continues to write, record, and perform for rock fans around the world. So, without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce the one and only Harry Hess.
Harry Hess.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Anytime.
Anytime. Absolutely. That's good to know because then I'll be writing you some more emails.
Yeah, for sure.
I got nothing to do all weekend. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll just sit here until you want to ask me a question. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm a really big fan of Harem Scarem.
Thank you.
I wasn't a part of it from, I guess, the beginning. I'm from 1982. So
Right.
I discovered Harem Scarem probably just around 1999. And one of my favorite pastime activities would be to jump around secondhand CD stores. And in one of them, I found Mood Swings.
Oh, cool.
And I didn't even listen to it. Often I would just buy a stack of CDs, just kind of look at the covers, and I'd get a feel for it. And there was something about the cover that just said to me, like, I'm gonna enjoy this, but I have no clue what it is. And I left the store, and I had my Discman with me, and I put it in right away. And then, the intro riff comes. I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. I wasn't sure. And then the song kicks in. I'm like, all right, this is badass. And that just put me on a path of Harem Scarem fanboying for years.
Oh, cool. Amazing.
So, yeah. So I don't even know where to start because I got a ton of questions, and it's like part of me wants to ask about your whole life story, and another part is what are you up to now, and then you got First Signal, and you got I want to hear about. Okay, we'll start out. I'll do like this. I want to hear about Blind Vengeance. That's your first band, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and actually it was my second band that I was in, and I guess we made a record when I was 15. I turned 16 while we were recording that record, and it got signed to an indie label in Canada called Attic Records, which had a lot of indie metal and stuff like that, and they even imported in the first Iron Maiden and Judas Priest records, and so I was into, your T-shirt there, Dennis. I was into Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and bands of that kind of ilk because literally that was what was on the radio, was popular. So when you talk about pop music in the early 80s or mid 80s, you're talking about rock and metal, that was on the radio. So Motley Crue and stuff like that. It didn't feel underground or weird to me. So those were our influences. Those are the kinds of things we were hearing. And as a 15-year-old writing songs, there's no life experience. There's nothing other than just copying, your favorite bands at that time. And so that was kind of my first introduction into the recording world and writing and making a record. So on one hand, I'm proud of the fact that at a young age we actually did that and accomplished it, but at the same time it's like I can't listen to it. It's just it's terrible to me. But I'll say that about a lot of Harem Scarem. It's like along the way you're like, I just don't need to hear it ever again. But that's just part of my nature. And Pete's the same way as well. People will come up to us and talk about songs, and we're like, I don't even remember how that goes. Like, I don't even remember that song. Like, because we don't listen to our own material literally ever again after we record it. And we're on to the next thing. And so, but Blind Vengeance was the first thing. And Darren we brought in Darren to play drums on that record, and that's kind of got me and Darren working together. Darren just lived down the street from me in Ajax, Ontario, Canada, and that was our first band. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, so that's pretty much the start of everything. But also super funny you're saying that thing about not ever listening to what you did before. It's like, you didn't listen to the stuff you did when you were 15. I didn't listen to the stuff I did when I was like 38. I never listened back to it.
Yeah.
But again, I could imagine the lyrics being the same about riding motorcycles while slaying dragons and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was the lyrical content of the day.
Yeah.
And now, I'll be 58 next month, and one of the biggest problems with writing rock songs now for me are the lyrics. I mean, like I can't write what I was thinking as a 15-year-old or even a 20-year-old. It's just, am I allowed to swear? I just don't want to make sure.
Yes, you are. You are.
So, I mean, Pete and I, like when we're working on these songs, it's like, I can't fucking sing that. Like I'm, about fucking chicks and like we're not writing that. Like I'm going to bed at 9:30 at night. I'm gonna write about that. I'm gonna write about my prostate issues. Yeah.
He had 12 new songs about autoimmune diseases.
Autoimmune disease, prostate problems. Joint problems. So
I've never felt more seen than right now. It's like,
there you go.
It's
So
like,
write about what you know. Write about what you know always.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for people watching and listening, when we all got on screen before we started recording, literally the first thing we started talking about was like our poor eye vision.
Bad health. That's
wrong road.
Shitty health.
But I'd say lyric wise, I mean, listening to Blind Vengeance, it's got that. For me, like I think there's a charm to this, like old school heavy metal. It's like that first band that Yngwie Malmsteen was in, Steeler, with Ron Keel. Right. When you hear that first album, it's like super primitive, but it's just got that badass like American heavy metal. Got the pedal to the metal. And. Yeah. Or have you ever heard Hawaii with Marty Friedman?
No,
it's a great album. They did. The natives are restless, and that was before he did the whole like cacophony shrapnel thing. It's the same. It's about riding motorcycles and cars and putting on my jeans and fire and stuff. It's great.
All the good stuff.
Yeah. But
now it's about shitting in your jeans. Yeah.
Sorry.
Now it's about shitting in your jeans. Yeah.
Shitting in your jeans. Yes. Well, seriously, I would be surprised.
Riding rollators.
If a Harem Scarem album came out and there was a song about shitting in your jeans.
Yeah, at this point, you never know. But no, you're right.
Look, the next album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We're looking for a new album title for our new record right now. So
Yeah.
you never know. You guys might get credited for this. There's a charm to not knowing what you're doing, right? And I mean, when you're learning and you're just, because it's raw talent or lack thereof, just raw energy most of the time. You know, when you're 15 years old and you're playing in a band, I mean, it's that you're hearing and pushing through. It's not refined. There's no real skill that later on got refined for us as musicians as we learned how to make records. And even in our first demos for Harem Scarem, they're really bad. Like, I mean, really, 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 really bad, because recording was so hard to do back then. You needed the proper equipment, and you also needed the skills and the knowledge and the facility to do it, right? And so we were just trying to grow all these things at the same time in a short period of time. So when I first started, working on Harem Scarem songs, I was probably around 17 or 18, and then I met Pete when I turned 19. And so for that year, 19, 20 years old, Pete and I are both the same age. All we were doing were writing songs and recording them, and then we got a record deal. And so I guess we were probably 21, 22 when we got signed to Warner, and we put out the first Harem Scarem record. And even then, we'd grown so much in 24 months, and that's where we learned how to record, when we first started working with a proper recording engineer and a producer, and he was telling us, this is how you do this. This is how you make records. And when you learn from people that have made proper records or hit records or worked with, real artists, that's when you really, really grow if you're paying attention, So, and we were into it, and by the time we were doing Mood Swings, we were making a lot of that record ourselves, unsupervised, just on our own in my studio. And
you learned all the skills of recording and mixing and everything along the way by just looking over your mixing engineer's shoulder. And,
absolutely, yeah. We drove him crazy. It was a guy named Kevin Doyle. And at the time, he just came off working with that Alana Miles big record, Black Velvet, and that sold 12 million records. And he'd also done a Hall & Oates record, and he'd also worked with Kiss with Bob Ezrin, and so he knew what he was doing. And we thought he was the old guy. He was like 33 years old, and we were 20 or 21, and we just bugged the shit out of him, like. I did the most. Like, why are you EQing it that way? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? Why that? Why? And I remember one point where he was mixing, he said, you go sit on the couch and just shut the fuck up and let me do this. And then when I've got this done, then you can ask me questions and comments. But he was so giving with his knowledge, because a lot of producers and engineers, they wouldn't be, and he was. He just taught me everything. How to record, and eventually we could do it on our own. So that was a giant gift from him.
And that's pretty impressive, because I thought your debut album, had a really nice production, but then when you go to Mood Swings, it's definitely way more, fat sounding, and it's way more in your face, but it's still got that really, I don't know what the right word, like smooth production. It's very well produced.
Yeah, I mean, we loved Mutt Lange Productions, and we were just trying to basically rip off Mutt Lange Productions and Def Leppard and those types of things, like big backing vocals, like, we loved Queen records, just over the top, big productions kind of thing. That's what we were trying to do. And from the first record, where they were just straight up songs. And by the second record, I was writing with Pete, where I wasn't really on the first one. I was just writing on my own. And then once Pete got involved, Pete was writing great guitar riffs. And then that was, him and I coming together and writing. That's why Mood Swings is way more interesting musically. And we were starting to become conscious of the recording process and how to get what we wanted, and we kept driving towards, you know, big guitars, big drums, big vocals, everything louder than everything else kind of theory, and that's what we were trying to do. Yeah.
And the vocal thing is definitely one thing I think that makes Harem Scarem stand out from so many other bands from its time, is that it seems like everybody in that band is a good singer. Everybody,
Yeah.
and your vocal harmonies, like you got these like Queen Beatle-esque sort of, like in a lot of choruses with the harmonies, and it works out so well. But it's such a distinct, you know, you can always hear when it's a Harem Scarem song. At
Yeah,
least to
and I
me.
mean, like, it is important, and I mean, when I put the band together, I remember consciously thinking, I want everybody to be able to sing because we want to do that, right? And that was way before putting stuff on tape and you know, kind of faking it live. So we knew that if we were going to go out and play live, everybody would have to contribute to backing vocals and stuff like that. Probably the best version of the band was when we got Barry Donahue playing bass. Like, Barry could be a lead singer. Darren was definitely a lead singer. Pete, but more of a lower register, and I was a lead singer. So, you know, you had 4 people that could sing a song on their own, you know what I mean? And when we were doing it all together, it was great. And I love that about any band, you know, like I love Boston for that reason too. I love the harmonies. I love just, you know, really melodic, great singing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I was about to like bring out Boston, and like Boston and Queen, great examples of like, from, if you go to the 70s, that era, it was like you had like 2 band camps sort of. It sort of split up along the way of the 70s, where one went in the direction of course like Sex Pistols and all that, but also like a band like Led Zeppelin didn't have a lot of harmony stuff going on.
No.
But Queen did. And so I tended to lean towards the harmony driven sort of vocal stuff because I'm 49 years old. My first love of music was a band like Europe, you know. So, but they had a lot of that going on as well.
Yeah.
So that spoke to me in the sense that when I went back to try and search out where did this all come from, as you would simply go when you get older, get interested in what are the roots of the bands I like, you know.
Yeah.
And then I started bumping into like Boston, Foreigner, but also like Queen, and that's the sort of the corner of the rock world that I would put Harem Scarem in, because you had or have those incredibly strong vocal abilities as a collective group.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the plan. We wanted to do those types of songs. We wanted to do, you know, big arrangements, larger than life, callback parts, multiple vocal layers and overlapping and things like that. You can't do that with just one singer. So it limits you of what you're going to do. And then musically, we would just get bored if we did the same thing over and over again. So we, you know, still to this day, we just try to find new ways to write songs that are kind of genre specific. If you say like whenever we've gone off too far off the path, the fans remind us quickly that this is not what they signed up for and this is not what they want. So as a musician and a songwriter, it took us a long time to not be annoyed by that, but there were many, many years and albums where we were very annoyed that we've been pigeonholed into making a certain record because we had a certain fan base and they expected something from us. But as I got older and more mature, I thought, okay, well, if one of the bands that I love just did something completely different from what I love about them, I wouldn't like it either. So it took that kind of self-reflection to kind of go, okay, I just have to think of it more from a fan's perspective. And they like us for a reason. And they like us because we do this. They don't like us because we do that. So don't do that if you're going to call it Harem Scarem. And so for the last 4 or 5 records, we've made what I think people expect from us, like the Mood Swings record. But if you followed our career, we did power pop. We did, really dark, weird shit that,
You had the whole
nobody
rubber
could
era.
follow, like on Voice of Reason. Nobody liked that record. We thought we were being brilliant, but nobody liked it. So, hey, you know what? We've had almost a 40-year career. You can't make the same record over and over again and have a 40-year career. So,
No, of course not.
And even now, we're getting to the point where, like, every time we finish a record, we go, I don't think we can make another record because we don't want to do the same thing over and over again, and we are now. But as long as it's good, I don't mind. So if we can write a good song that sounds like Harem Scarem, great. But the minute we start writing songs where we're just like, I don't give a shit about this, or it's not even as good as the other stuff we've done, that's when you'll never hear from us again. But I can proudly tell you the record that we've been working on, we'll have done in a couple of months, it'll be out in the, early next year, is some of our best material. So I'm really happy and that we're able to continue to write songs because there's a lot of examples of bands that have just, they had their first, second record or whatever, and for whatever reason, their songwriting ability not only didn't get better, but it's a lot worse, So I don't get it. Like, you're supposed to develop your skills, not lose.
I might have a suggestion as to why that could be.
I'd love to hear it. I don't know.
A lot of bands, new hot bands, let's just say the 80s, for example. Wow, these guys look good. I bet we could sell a lot of albums with these guys on the cover.
Yeah.
And they can sort of play, so that's cool too. Let's write them a bunch of songs and give them a great producer.
Yeah.
Tell them exactly what to do. And then they explode, they sell 2 million copies, and they go, wow, we're pretty fucking good. We don't need these guys, And I mean, I seem to remember a few of those bands. I'm not going to mention any names, but where like on album 2 or 3 just completely bombed.
Look, styles change, and that's a huge part of it as well. Because look, if you're signed to a record company, they want obviously you to sell records and be popular. So the pressure to go in a different direction is actually quite strong unless you've built up a really strong fan base and you can just rely on putting out the same record over and over again. But if you think about that logically, that doesn't make a lot of sense that there's any longevity in that, because inevitably the record company is going to lose interest in you because you're not growing your fan base. You're not current, which is a big one for them. And so you better hope you've built a huge career, because look, even Def Leppard, you could argue that Def Leppard haven't written a great song since the Mutt Lange days. Although I really love Def Leppard, one of my favorite bands of all time, but no one would argue that their best material was, 30 years ago. So, but they're still out there and they play those songs. And I mean, it's extremely valid because they were so big at a certain time. Journey's like that, Bon Jovi's like that, Aerosmith. There's bands that got so big at that time that they can still go out and play the old hits, and everybody comes and buys a ticket for $400. But the rest of us that never sold 10, 20, 30 million records, I mean, we were lucky. We sold a couple million records, but it took us 40 years to do it. So I don't know if that's a big accomplishment, but at the end of the day, I think our fan base just always stuck with us for some strange reason, even when we did these really weird left turns. And so, we're super grateful that we're still here doing this and never had a real job, and we make music for a living. So it's awesome.
That is pretty fucking awesome. I couldn't help but laughing when you mentioned Bon Jovi, because in my head while you were talking, I was thinking, well, Bon Jovi still did some newer good stuff. I mean, Keep the Faith was pretty great. And then I started thinking, it's from 93. It's like, I forget about time as well. I thought it was like a recent album, like 10 years ago. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
So really good point. The best material might be behind them.
But it's so tough. It's
but
so
it made
tough,
an impact.
right? Because I've seen. Actually, I think with Harem Scarem, it must have been around the time when Weight of the World was about to get released, and there was like this magazine that I was reading, and it was going like, this is gonna be Harem Scarem back to form. It's like Mood Swings 2. It's gonna be, and there were other bands releasing stuff around the same time where it was the same. I can't, like Def Leppard maybe, where it was like, this is gonna be just like Hysteria, and I just started picking up on this. It was like Metallica, they got something new coming out, and then they'll kind of hint, we're really inspired by Ride the Lightning on this album, so it's like back to form. And for me, I never fall for it, because the way I see it is like all those albums, like when Metallica did Ride the Lightning, that was sort of like a moment in time.
Yeah.
Snapshot.
Yeah, and they were at a certain place. They had that young, whatever, teen anger and fury, and we got to prove ourselves in a whole different way. And when Def Leppard did Hysteria, it was another time. They were at another mind space as well. And to expect that artist will, I actually think if Metallica, they did an album and it sounded like Ride the Lightning now, I'm not even sure people would accept it. I think people would be like, okay, this just proves that they think that everything they've done from Ride the Lightning until now was pointless, because we ended up at the same style again.
Back in the same spot.
Yeah.
And I guess if enough time goes by, I don't even know. I don't even know what new rock would be. Like, if I'm trying to think of a band that's new, that sounds like the music of that era, and there aren't a lot of new ones. They're all probably in their 50s and 60s, and some of them in their 70s, and they're just rehashing what they became popular with, which, again, if you're really good, there's a lot of rock bands that I really like, and I would go see, and I would enjoy it, and that would be that. But if we're being honest, it's on the glory of what happened 30, 40 years ago, and that's kind of the genre that we're in. But I don't know if it means anything, but that's kind of the situation that we're in when we think about it.
But I think you guys, you managed to, you have balanced it out really well, because ever since Weight of the World and the stuff you've released since then, it's got that classic Harem Scarem sound. You can compare it to, let's say, Mood Swings, but it's still got a modern twist to it that makes it relevant for a newer audience as well. I don't feel like it's like, oh God, they're just trying to get back in their 90s, early 90s spandex again,
Yeah. It was a mystery to us, basically, even what we were doing, because I can honestly say, even though sometimes it sounds contrived what we were doing, because it's based on 20 million things that sound like that before us, we didn't invent anything, that's for sure. We're under no delusion to think that we were visionaries or invented anything. It was never even our goal. We just wanted to write what we thought were great songs and put them out and go play them. That was kind of it, right? But it's just funny, as the years keep going on, you kind of got to wonder, how many times can you write an up-tempo song, EDGC at 125 BPMs that, this does this and the verse comes and the chorus, and you go, wow. Like, when we stare at a blank stage, when we're a blank page starting a new record, it is so daunting. It's unbelievable. But we just chip away at it bit by bit, get parts that we like, start writing songs, and start hammering away at it. So the whole thing, I got to say, is a little bit of a mystery to even us, and we've written hundreds of songs, and this will be our 17th studio record of original material, and I don't even really understand how or why we're even doing it. You could argue against it. You could say, this is the same shit that anybody was doing 40 years ago. What are you doing? But then at the same time, you can do a good version of it in 2026 and people enjoy it. well, then that's the reason why you're doing it. And we actually like it. We have fun making these records, you know. It's a lot of hard work, but it pays off because there's a result that you can listen to and people enjoy it, and we get the feedback from the fans, and we don't even know ourselves how much it means to them until we get out on the road and we meet all these people. And there's a lot of people that like what we do, so we keep doing it.
But don't you think that it's because if Harem Scarem was your absolute sole project, it was the only thing you worked with, then yeah, you probably would sort of end up just in, you know, like getting tired of it. But you all have other projects. I mean, Darren, he was the singer for Jakey Lee's Red Dragon Cartel band, and I mean, Pete, he's got, you know, he's doing that country thing now. And I mean, he did that Fairground album, which I thought that album should have been huge. Like it's like radio rock, but it's like kind of alternative, but it's super catchy. It's such a well-written album. And I mean, you got First Signal. You've also done like some solo albums as well, and then you're, you know, producing a ton of artists, right? Yeah.
I mean, I've always tried to do a bunch of different things, and like I said, when we first started making Harem Scarem records, we noticed that, you know, songwriting is the most important thing, but second of all, being able to get your ideas down and finish them to whatever, you know, extent you want to, or like if you have a vision and you want to fulfill it, relying on other people to fulfill your vision was always a letdown. So the only people that Pete and I could count on to fulfill our vision was us. That was it. Like, honestly, and still to this day, sometimes, you know, of 40 years of interacting with other musicians and stuff, that what Pete and I do is we just can't find other people that do that. Like when we work with other people, it's just not the same for some strange reason. So I love working with other bands, and it's always been a great growing and learning experience for me. And to your point, I would get bored just doing one thing and making Harem Scarem records. So, you know, I totally got into the production side. I love recording. I love making records. I love making records more than doing anything. Even making records for other people would be more important to me than making them for myself, you know. But after maybe a couple of years, if I have some song ideas, then I'll make a record, you know, whether it's Harem Scarem or solo record or whatever. But I do just love making records and being part of it. And when you can be a part of other people's career, boy, can you ever learn a lot, because you're not just living in your own little bubble, and your reality is your own in your own head. When I get to meet other managers, other producers, other songwriters, other musicians, go to studios around the world, I get I guess an education that otherwise I would never get, you know. So it's multifaceted, and from that it you know, you just grow as a person way more, and then you come back and you do your thing. You take a little trick from that guy, you take a little trick from this guy, and you just learn, and you know, your whole writing and production evolves based on that knowledge. So that's always been important to me. And then I started mastering records about 20 years ago, and that's kind of my number one job these days is mastering records. And I love doing it. Yeah.
Good to know. I really suck at that part, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
might hit you up.
I've done, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've done everything from metal records to jazz records, you know, anywhere, you know, from crazy screaming metal to Frank Sinatra. It's like crazy, yeah.
Okay. Great,
but
man.
keeps life exciting, and learning how all the other different genres work, and you know, how you would treat a jazz record versus a metal record, and what makes that, and why people sonically want something a certain way that's genre specific. So it's again, just musical education in that way.
I'm getting like sort of the vibe that what really makes Harem Scarem still work, and why it's still so enjoyable to do those CGE songs in different combinations and still being able to put out new material that doesn't sound like the old but feels familiar, like within the Harem Scarem sort of box. It doesn't sound like it's something else. It sounds exactly like it's supposed to. It comes from probably you guys doing a lot of other stuff where a lot of those little, maybe we should try something a little different. You get that out of the system there. So when you do Harem Scarem, it feels like coming home. You can relax and just let whatever normally flow out, and you can do your your routine in a positive way. So if it feels like this is the part I don't have to I only have to impress myself and the other guys in the band, and we constantly do. We've done that for 40 years. We know each other, and I totally get that. I just started thinking about when you mentioned it. I'm doing an album with a band I started like 28 years ago, and we haven't played together for the last 15. But when we did those, we've done 9 songs in 2 weeks, and that's the album. And it felt so natural and easy to just there was no pressure, and it sounds exactly like it used to do. We didn't reinvent anything, but that's fine. So that sort of pressure is off, and so in a way you wildly more successful, but in a way I have the same story where I've gone and done a lot of stuff on the side for like the last 15-20 years and learned a lot of stuff also, but this just feels like I don't have to perform in the same way that I do when I'm around, if I'm going on a tour with a band or recording for somebody else. I can just be the guy that did this when he was like trying to make his first album, and then just do the same thing and be relaxed about it. So, and it feels like, it sounds like you guys are relaxed, and it's always done. It's always sounded like you guys are relaxed and comfortable in your own skin, and that makes that big, great signature of Harem Scarem, because there's something familiar. You come back to the same thing. Doesn't mean it has to necessarily sound old or outdated, because it doesn't. It just sounds like it comes from the same place, like when Martin Scorsese makes a new movie. It doesn't look old, but you get the essence of what it is, and I really enjoy that about you guys. I can only say that for like maybe 5 bands in history. You know, another guy I have this with, Alice Cooper. It feels homely whenever he does an album. You feel at home, and if Paul McCartney did a new album, I heard, I was like, wow, incredible. The guy's like 86 years old, but I get the same feeling.
Yeah.
And he still spashes out in the psychedelic weirdness sometimes and stuff. I'm like, good for you, Paul. I mean, this feels homely, you know? So so that's incredible. So I just put you in the same category as Alice Cooper and Paul McCartney, and it's meant as a compliment.
I don't know if I deserve that, but look, you
have it now.
Well, you come to the realization that when I open up my mouth and sing, I sound a certain way, and I write melodies and lyrics a certain way, and it has a style, and Pete plays a certain way. When we come together and we do what we do, it can't help but sound this way. Like, it's almost impossible for us not to sound like Harem Scarem. You know what I mean? And so once you realize that and you embrace it and you just let that happen, then you're just trying to write good songs. It's like a puzzle. You've got a bunch of pieces and you're just trying to put it together and have it make sense. And the writing is where we spend 90% of our time. And, Pete's doing guitars now for the record. And like literally he can play the song once from beginning to end, double the guitars, do a couple overdubs, and he's done. That's it. Like, 2 hours of guitar recording for an album that took 9 months to make. You know what I mean? And it's
That's efficient.
all in the writing and the arrangement, because he doesn't need practice learning how to play G, It's about the whole arrangement and the song and the way it hits and it makes you feel. And we go over tempos, we go over keys, we rewrite lyrics all the time. I'll sing the whole fucking chorus just to rip it apart again and sing it all again, and then find out it's the wrong key. And then we just experiment like that all the time, where we didn't do those types of things because we're spending so much time just playing in time or getting a chord in tune, and we're throwing guitars around the room because they wouldn't stay in tune, and now just that's not where we're focusing our time and effort and energy. The time, effort, and energy is in the songwriting and the arrangement, and that's time best spent, So and to just hone in on what you're saying, that's where it's comfortable, that's where it's easy, that's where it's still fun to do that, and now we're just at the point where it's just paint by numbers, if you know what I mean. It's like, okay, now we just got to record the drums, bass, and guitar and vocals. That's the easy part to do, when you make records for a living. But writing a great song, that's really, really hard. And writing a great song that you're not repeating yourself and you're not saying stupid shit as a 57-year-old in 2026. That's the hard part, because I don't hear a lot of people doing that, no matter what. But that's music as well. You can make fun of every genre, and I do. You can make fun of country music, you can make fun of hip hop, you can make fun of dumb rock guys. Everything is kind of silly and stupid, but it's also very culturally dependent on youth and being young and energetic. And I don't think any of us ever envisioned being this old making rock.
No.
I didn't think when I'm 19 that I'm going to be 58 next month making fucking Harem Scarem records. So, but it is what it is. And I love, if I'm seeing a legendary guy out there still pulling it off, like Glenn Hughes, that guy still sings like a motherfucker at 70 something. And I'm thinking I'm old, you know what I mean? What am I complaining about? Just get out there and do it, So it's awesome.
Yeah, he is fucking phenomenal.
I was just thinking about, old man, Paul Stanley. He probably didn't, when he wrote lyrics like "I want to put my log in your fire" or "Bang bang you pull the trigger off my love gun, baby." I'm not sure he was thinking I'm going to be singing those when I'm 60.
When he's a grandfather. But would he write it today? That's the question. If you asked him, you said, "Would you write Love Gun today?" And he'd be like, "Well, no. I'm a different person." And that's the weird part about being the same person, but also evolving into hopefully a mature adult that is a normal human being. But there's nothing normal about doing this and making records.
I think the only band that still writes lyrics exactly like they did back in 1981 or whatever, that's Manowar.
Right,
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But they did that smart thing where they just went, okay, this is what we write about when we're 17 years old playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Let's never change it. Let's just stick to that.
That was what we know. Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah.
And motorcycles, but
exactly. And lightning and steel and thunder.
Yeah. I know.
Well, I guess it works. Seriously, Manowar, when they come to Scandinavia, they sell out arenas here. Well, if they come to Germany and well, that's Greece, that's not Scandinavia, but in Europe in general, they have a pretty strong fan base, and I'm what I thought Manowar was the shit when I was 13 years old, and I got my first Manowar T-shirt, and
I kind of still do, man.
Well, we used to play. Was it Manowar? All Men Play on 10.
Yes.
Yeah. We used to play that. We played that. When we did covers, before we got our record deal. Yeah.
That's great.
Great.
I actually thought, so when you did the first Harem Scarem album, that album got tied into that sitcom, that Degrassi Junior High show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That was more or less the whole soundtrack for the series, right?
Yeah, it was.
How did you?
They did a movie, and oddly enough, our lawyer, a guy named Stephen Stone, his wife was the executive producer on that TV show. So when they were looking for songs, he literally had our record sitting on his desk, and they loved promoting Canadian material. And out of, I think out of the 11 songs on that record, 10 were in that movie. It was called Degrassi High, School's Out. And you know how many people come up to us to this day and said, the first time I ever heard of you guys was through Degrassi Junior High. And I was like, oh, and we'd never watched the show. We didn't know anything about it. And we just thought this was his kind of kids show or whatever for teenagers. And it's still to this day something that people mention. So
I remember it like I remember it vaguely from Danish TV. I'm like, it's not it to me. I remember there was like this kid who was always wearing like a fedora hat, and to me it I remember it as sort of like a precursor to Beverly Hills 902.
It was a Canadian version of that. Yeah.
I'm just sitting here smiling because I watched that show. I'm actually probably that guy that the first time I heard about Harem Scarem without knowing what it was from watching that show.
Yeah.
Because I do remember the music being pretty fucking good. And I'm 49 now, so I had like the age demographic for Degrassi High.
Yeah, that would have been perfect time.
So I've heard your first album before I even knew I heard it.
yeah, and that's what a lot of people say. And they're not typically the same fan base. So on our first record, we just had a lot of younger fans, a lot of kids, teenagers, girls, and stuff like that. And now, more and more the rock genre. It's like it's guys, So our demographic has certainly changed over the years. That's for sure. But hey, it's changing times, and that's all cool. We're lucky to even have a fan base.
But I'm sitting here in like my Savatage T-shirt. I love like my taste for music is so wide. I love like really hard stuff, but I always had like a really soft spot for, like some of like the early '80s like Canadian like AOR stuff, like Haywire. I fucking love Haywire. That first album.
He sings on our first record.
I know, yeah.
Gosland, yeah. I love, we opened for Haywire when our first record just came out, and I was like nervous to go into their dressing room and ask the singer, Paul McGoslin, I go, hey man, will you come in and do some backing vocals on our record? He's like, yeah, sure. So he came in and just fucking sang the shit out of it. Like, it was just unbelievable. He could sing like high C's, D's, and E's, like full voice, no problem, all day long. And I'm like, how do you do that? And he goes, I don't know, no clue. Like no training, no nothing. Just gets up there, sings like a bird. And I always envied people like that because it was always hard work for me and still is singing. Darren, our drummer, he can just be, drink 40 of Jack and get up there and hit high C's. And yeah.
We had Graham Bonnet on a while back, and the same with him. I mean, he's up there, 80, 81, whatever, and his voice still sounds like it did back in the day, and that's such a rare thing because nowadays you see so many singers getting so much crap. It's like Vince Neil, David Lee Roth, Don Dokken, Bon Jovi, Axl Rose, the list goes on. Everybody's just getting like chopped down. But then there are people like Glenn Hughes and Graham Bonnet, who just maintained that signature voice. He can still sing Since You've Been Gone, and it sounds the same as when he recorded with Rainbow, and I asked him, I said, do you do any vocal exercises, warm-ups? And he was like, no, he just always had that natural, just belting it out,
Yeah, get out there and sing. That's wild. Yeah. I mean, that is a gift, just to be able to get out there and do that. Yeah.
It's not like when Kip Winger kicked me and Dennis out of a dressing room.
Oh my God!
Because I was like I had joined Dennis for it was like this house band at a club, and I was playing bass and doing backing vocals, and I just wanted
It was sort of like Steel Panther before they were Steel Panther, metal school or metal shop, sort of. Yeah, in Copenhagen. Go on, Thomas. Yeah.
You know, I don't have like a especially interesting singing voice, but I wanted it to have some sort of raspiness. So I would stand like in the bathroom and just go like just scream to kind of shred the voice a bit. And then I'm standing there in the dressing room with Kip Winger, and he was sending everybody out because he had to do vocal warm-ups, and I was like, oh man, yeah, I just did my warm-ups too, and I just went and he just went like, yeah, that's great, dude.
You know what he told me afterwards? Yeah, you do. Because we were doing like Kickstart My Heart and songs like that, and I was going, wow, yeah! Like completely blowing out my vocal cords. Yeah. And he went up to me after and said, dude, if you want singing lessons, hit me up on Skype. I should probably have picked him up on that.
Yeah. I would too. Yeah. I saw him a couple of times, and he sang great live. And he used to eat like potato chips before. No, he was ice cream. He would like eat ice cream before going on stage. And I just saw him last year. We played the Frontiers Festival, and I said, "Are you still doing that?" And he goes, "No, I don't do that anymore." But I go, "But you did, right?" He goes, "Yeah, he used to eat ice cream before going on stage." And he said,
as if it was just his excuse to eat fucking ice cream. He just wanted that tub of Haagen-Dazs.
He's not eating ice cream anymore because he said,
"Oh, it's for my voice."
Yeah. It's at our age, you can't eat. Yeah. I'd love to do that as an excuse.
When your wife is being naggy about your cholesterol. But honey, I have to make a living,
It's my career. Yeah.
It was like I used to work at this guitar shop, and the owner, he was like very overweight, or the boss, he wasn't the owner, but apparently his wife had been on his case for like, you got to eat more healthy, you got to lose some weight. So just out of sheer protest, he started eating like a full plate of chocolate for breakfast, but then he picked the one with nuts in it because then it was healthy.
Healthy. Yeah, like
it's got hazelnuts.
I'll drink a Diet Coke while I'm eating a Big Mac and fries and and trying to be healthy, right? Yeah.
Man, I was watching some of those old Harem Scarem music videos too, and they just got such a cool vibe. I love music videos from that era. It's the same as when you're watching some like Mr. Big videos or Extreme, like To Be With You. Like it's no, that was Mr. Big, To Be With You. But man, your hair was impressive back then.
That was real. Do you believe it?
Dude, like what did you like? The curls were like
the curls were real. Yeah, like if I let my hair grow, it starts curling up. Yeah,
damn.
I should have kept back on.
I was in
Belgium, and I was producing a record, and I was in a hotel that had no air conditioning in a heat wave in Belgium. And I would wake up, and the thing, like the hair would be stuck to the side of my face, covered in sweat. And I just got up one day and I said, "Fuck this! I'm going to get my hair cut." So this guy at a hairdresser shop, he literally took my hair, put it in a ponytail, cut off the ponytail, and that was my haircut for about 2 years. And I got up on stage and we did the Via Rock Festival in Belgium that year. We opened for Whitesnake. Well, Whitesnake was the headliner. And I just looked like an idiot for a couple of years there. And then I cut my hair and I never grew it back, or never really grew it back. And around 95, it kind of got long again, maybe down to there. But that was when the grunge era hit, and I looked like a homeless guy, for a while, because that was the thing to do. And so we did that. We looked like homeless guys for a while, and then that kind of all just went away. We just were making records, and that was it. So there was no look anymore. But in the beginning, hey, that's what everybody looked like, right? Like like Eric Martin looked like a like a girl, and I looked like a girl wearing a blouse, and and we were all like, kind of, that was the thing. I never thought much about it. That was just what you looked like when you were a rock guy in the late '80s, early '90s. Yeah.
I mean, you have to put out that authentic heterosexual energy to pick up the chicks, and that's what that was at the time. So
that's right.
I still look like that. I don't know what I'm picking up, but or what signals I'm sending anymore. But
Hey, so the rock thing,
at least you got to cut off your hair just out of like sheer annoyment, like you were annoyed with it being in the way. It wasn't like me. I had long hair. I had to cut it off because at age 23, 24, I got bullied by school kids for having a receding hairline. And it's like, you little shit, you're like in 3rd grade and you're bullying me. And I went home and I was like, I was standing like in the mirror, just like shaving it off, just being like, oh, I can't like live with myself. And then the next day I go to Sweden Rock Festival, not having any clue that my hair has protected my scalp for all these years. So the first day it just got annihilated by the sun. So I was running around this festival with Dennis, and I had like oozing like blisters with pus dripping down my face.
Pretty rock and roll.
And this is why I still have this hair. I'm heavily annoyed by it, but I'm also scared to death of ending up like that.
And once you're used to it, it's like, hey, this is my look. Yeah, I get it.
But then at least I can grow a little bit of beard now.
That's good. Like, I miss it when I'm on stage. That's the time that you want hair. So even now, I'm like, I feel like I'm the manager of the band, not the singer. Yeah.
So what's up with how did First Signal come around?
Well, I forget what year it was, but
that's a Frontiers thing, right?
Yeah, I stopped doing Harem Scarem. I mean, Pete and I were just decided, like I've kind of hinted at it, like, if we're not feeling it, we're not doing it. And we were just like, I think we've done everything that we're going to do. You know what I mean? Like, we've made, at that point, probably 10 records. And it's like, I think we've had it, right?
Been there, done that.
Yeah, so I was heavily doing production work. I was working a lot in Europe, actually, doing Idol records, X Factor records, The Voice, and things like that. And it was going very, very well. Production, engineering, writing, things like that. So I was super busy. And like I said, I just looked at Harem Scarem and went, man, that kind of doesn't interest me right now. And so when I told Frontiers we're not going to make any more records and that's it, they were like, oh, okay. So Serafino, the president, he called me maybe 6 months after and said, since you're not making any rock records, you just want to do a project, like, and sing. And I said, absolutely, that's easy. Like, the writing part, like we described, that's the hard part. That's where I spend all my time and effort. Singing, I just get up to the mic and I sing and I can get through it, kind of thing. So that was the idea and the premise behind First Signal, and still is. Like, I don't want to write those songs. I don't want to be involved in the production. I just want to sing. That's it. And so they get me songs, and when we all feel like we've got a record, we make a record, and that's it. And they switch producers a lot of times, and to kind of keep it not being the same thing over and over again. But, like, as you know, the projects are weird because, there's no band, there's no real, I don't want to say there's no real point to it. If you like AOR music, you would like this record and you would like that project. But for me, being a little bit more a traditional kind of into bands kind of guy, I don't feel like it's a band or anything like that. We're just making records, which is totally cool. So, yeah.
But a lot of those
I get that. I totally get that. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No. It's just I do get the impression that a fair amount of those Frontier bands, they like the one with Robin McAuley and Reb Beach, Black Swan.
Yeah.
I have the impression that a lot of people would like to see them as a touring act.
Yeah.
But it seems to be, I think the financial part probably keeps it from happening.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, they're both kind of like rock legends in that way. Like, yeah, anybody would, that's a fan of their careers would want to see them play live. But look, a lot of the times these projects, they don't have a plan beyond just making the record, and then people move on and they're committed to other things. And if you're already doing, you've already got your own thing going on. For me, I wasn't planning on doing Harem Scarem again, so I just thought, okay, well, I have no problem singing on rock records, so I will do that. But now when I'm making Harem Scarem records, for me, it's a priority making a Harem Scarem record, and probably for any fans of ours or even First Signal, or they probably cross over and they're the same people. So I think they'd much rather a Harem Scarem record than a First Signal. But we do have plans in the works to make another one, so we'll do that one day when everybody has time.
Oh, that's great.
Cool.
Yeah.
I actually like the idea that Frontiers has, where they like couple people together, like for example, like Tracy Guns and Michael Sweet, Guns and Moses. It's like, and you get this this hybrid sort of sleaze metal sort of album, but it sort of works. I mean, I heard the first album was really good, and I was like, wow, I would actually love to see this live. Of course, it's probably never going to happen because they both have pretty successful bands in their own right, but those kinds of interactions, I find those giving somehow. I mean, the point of just doing that is enough for me to say, okay, I think they got a really good point here. They're doing something that nobody else is doing. Like compilation albums used to be like a tribute to Queen or a tribute to Iron Maiden or Dio, and then they have a lot of people doing Dio or Deep Purple songs together. But this is even more fun, I think, because they put like two very different sort of guys, or the Rep Beach thing, two very different sort of kind of guys together and make them make an album sort of.
Yeah.
So you get something you didn't really expect, but a lot of times I think the outcome is really good.
Yeah, and look, I mean, to your point, like, would you rather it not exist? I mean, it's
exactly
up to everybody to decide whether they need or want to buy it. We do live in a streaming world. You can just stream it and listen to it. Nobody's forcing anybody to buy these records. But from my perspective, it's like I'd rather have something exist than not. So, we're in the business of making records and writing songs and putting them out, and then let the fans decide which ones they want to buy or support. And then over time, it becomes clear which ones matter to people and which ones are worth pursuing and which ones are just maybe a one-off and you leave them kind of thing. So, but there's so many talented musicians out there that need a platform, or a label like Frontiers to kind of put the dots together, connect the dots and go, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? And most of the time it's like, well, no, I never thought of that. That's a cool idea, I've been approached about a few projects and stuff in the past, and First Signal was the obvious one that worked out. But I mean, I know they're doing things like that. But look, I mean, bands have a way of, like, if they're a real band and they're out and they're touring and they're building something like a fan base and a career, there's something to be said for that there's longevity in it. But hey, bands come and go as well. But like, at least the bands that are our age that have been around for 20, 30, 40 years, they usually figure out a way to exist and continue on whatever level, even if they're going out and playing their old songs. That's cool. Like, we're going to do the Monsters of Rock thing next year. And, if somebody would have told me 30 years ago, you'll be playing with Tesla and Extreme and Y&T, what year is this going to happen? Like, what I mean? Those are the same bands that we were, idolizing and, putting out records with at the same time. We just wanted to be a part of that whole thing in that scene. And it's wild that it's still going on. And we're all just a lot older, but other than that, like, not much has changed, right?
Listen up, guys. I got good news and bad news. What's the good news? You're gonna tour with Extreme. Oh, cool. Bad news is it's gonna take a little longer than you might expect. It's like
But it's funny to see how, I'm learning a lot when I'm, talking to people here, because it's just interesting for me to see how differently like older acts, they navigate the whole system in a fairly specific way. And then me and Dennis, we recorded with this guy Pat Lukens, also known as Myron, who is this American musician, and he does a ton of different projects. Super talented, but he's like in his early 20s, and he's built up like a producing career, and he's in several bands, and he spits out so many projects and songs under his like this Myron name, and for him it's like Bandcamp, SoundCloud, all these different online systems, and to me it's just I have no clue how any of it works. And so he got on, and I was like, so you just released a new single today, and he was sort of like kind of thinking, and he was like, oh yeah, I don't know, you just put them, you upload them, and then you choose specific dates, and they, I forget about it. And I was like, I just had this mental picture of him getting up Friday morning and just, okay, I'm going to upload my single, boop, and then it's going to happen. It just goes to show how naive I am.
Well, yeah, it's a new world of a lot of fans, that discover this kind of music from streaming, especially younger ones, but the hardcore fans are still buying physical product, like vinyl sales in 2025 hit an all-time high, and CD sales were up 20% from 2024 to 2025. So physical goods are still selling a ton, and it's not what it was, in the late 80s, early 90s, but still at the end of the day, if you found your path, and you have a fan base, you can still survive. You can still do this. So that's the good news about it. So,
but also the whole thing with CDs and vinyls and cassettes and all that cool stuff. I think that feeling of the bands like 10 years ago, they would actually go, I don't care as long as I get 100,000 hits on Spotify. I couldn't care less if I ever see a CD with myself on it. But it feels like that's changing as well.
It is.
Like with older guys like me, I've always been, if it's not physical, I didn't make it. It's like I want to be able to hold it, and my goal was always to somehow one day be able to do something that was so successful it would be printed on vinyl.
Yeah.
So when I first got my first vinyl I played on, I was like in tears almost,
Cool.
And now I'm like that snobby guy that goes, but I want vinyl because CDs are okay, but it's like but no, the whole idea, if it's not physical, it's not really real to me. And that a lot of bands like 10 years, 15 years ago, they didn't seem to care at all. But it seems like it's coming back, and that speaks very well into what you're saying about sales going up. That makes sense to me. So and that's cool. I like this cool stuff.
Yeah, no, me too. And I mean, I'm heavily in the in the physical production world, just for, bands that I work with and projects that I work on. So it's been a real learning experience for me to kind of see how the fan bases work and what people want. And people want these deluxe editions. They want to own things that nobody else owns. They want to hear those B-sides. They want it on vinyl. They want it on CD. They want these really cool things, So it's not just about putting out, a standard new record. It's also going back into the archives. And, as a mastering engineer, probably 15 years ago, I started doing a lot of box sets. And that's what really got me into looking into the archives and seeing what was going on. And, legendary Canadian bands like BTO. I don't know if you even know who that is, but, they sold...
Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Bachman Turner Overdrive, exactly.
Yeah. Ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, so exactly. And so, I did this box set for BTO for Universal, and they ended up just selling a shitload of them. And I mean, and they're expensive too, like $250 for a box set. You go, well, and you start to do the math on 5,000 units at $250. Oh, this might still be a viable
Yeah.
business, and it is for a lot of bands that are legacy artists that have all these things that they've built up along the way. But a lot of them aren't aware of it, or they can't put it together, or they don't have the time, or even management. They don't have a label anymore. So, those are interesting conversations I have with bands to this day about doing things like that. Like the Harem Scarem thing, I don't know if you can see it there, but we reissued Mood Swings, kind of hanging there. Yeah, there it is there.
Yeah.
So we put that on vinyl just 2 years ago. And that's the first time Mood Swings ever came out on vinyl. And so when you
I
think
had no idea it was out.
yeah, so like that, and we made a 30-year anniversary vinyl edition. And think about how many legacy bands never put out any vinyl in the late 80s, early 90s, all of the 2000s. And
Exactly.
all these,
I'm going to buy that, just so you know.
There
I
you
didn't know
go.
it existed.
There you go.
Cool.
It might be
Is
sold
it-
out,
okay.
but maybe you can find one.
Somebody
yeah,
once told me, and I don't, because I have no clue, so I don't know if it's true, but he said a lot of vinyls that are getting like pressed nowadays, that it's basically just like a compressed like MP3 format that they press into the vinyl, so it's not like back in the day where the sound was. Yeah, I don't know too much about it, but is that true?
Well, I mean, it can be, because a lot of times they don't have anything other than the digitally mastered CD versions. And so what they do, they take a transfer from the CD and they make vinyl from it. What I do is I take the original tapes, like the analog tapes or the mixes. What I want are the mixes. Even if they're digital, they're not already mastered for CD. That's where digital limiting comes in. That's where it's already kind of compressed and over limited. It's more limiting than it is compression, right? Limiting, it hits a ceiling. They try and go right up to the ceiling. So whenever you do, think about a car running into a brick wall. It gets tiny when you hit the brick wall. So that's kind of the analogy of digital limiting, where you can get the whole thing from the mix. Mixers mixing off analog, typically you can get those like 8 to 10 dB louder on a CD. When you go to vinyl, you don't want it that loud, and because you don't need it that loud, because vinyl doesn't work that way, so it's relaxed, it's open, it's closer to the mix, the original source, and it doesn't have all that digital limiting on it. But if you're in a scenario where all they have are the original or the CD version of it, then it's a decision that you have to make. So there's no real rule to it, but the only rule you would try to follow is get the mixes. Get the original recordings. And sometimes we even bake tapes that are 30, 40 years old and then do a tape transfer, and then we capture it digitally. You can do a high-res digital capture and then make your new vinyl masters from that, and you can also make your new CD masters from that. So that's from the original mixes, which were analog, but they're digital versions of the analog mixes, if that makes any sense.
But when you record an album, you mix it, you do the whole process, and then somewhere along the way, around release time, it gets uploaded on Spotify. Yeah. And Spotify, they do compress the sound, they do alter it, right? Because my buddy, he played me, he was like, because we were talking about Toto, and he goes like, yeah, man, I was listening to the Mindfields album on Spotify, and it's just weird. Something is off about it. And I was like, I don't know, it sounds good to me. And then he came by another time, and he had brought like the CD, and we put it on, and it was like, whoa. It's way, like the sonic, like the whole experience was just way fuller. Yeah. And I had never thought about that, but does that go for every single piece of music that gets uploaded to Spotify? Because in that case, it must be a pain in the ass for you to go through that whole recording process and then know that what people are listening to isn't that full experience that you intended for them to listen to. Yeah, well, I mean, that's why you will do, when I make masters these days, I make a vinyl master, because 9 times out of 10 people are doing vinyl. I do a CD master, people are still doing CDs, and I do streaming masters. Now, streaming is a weird one because, again, what you're listening to is not
even what we call a WAV file, which is a typical, audio master. It's a different format. So when anybody like myself or any musician uploads their tracks to then go out to all the digital aggregates, they're called. So you're talking about Apple Music, you're talking about Spotify, but those are the two big ones. Those are not, they're different formats. And the reason they compress the audio in the first place is because think about what they have as a storage medium for every piece of music ever recorded in the history of the world, right? So they are already dumbing it down. And so Apple uses something called an AAC file. It's not even a WAV file. So you're already degrading the audio whenever you upload it. And so when it gets uploaded, it gets converted. And that's a file conversion. That's what they call a lossy format, So it goes down and it's degraded. And then the problem is the playback scenario. So when you're streaming audio, you're at the mercy of, let's say, your internet right now. Like what happens if you don't have full bandwidth right now on the internet? You'll cut out, you'll stop talking, we'll get all glitchy and we'll get over it. That happens to the audio. So in any given moment, you can be listening to something, it can sound good 1 minute, and 5 minutes later, it cannot sound good. So it's not a reliable playback source, right? So when you want to listen to audio properly, somebody brings over a CD, and then you go, okay, the playback scenario on a CD is all dependent on the digital to analog converter, and then how it's being played and how it's being listened to. So if I listen to something off my phone in the garage, it's going to sound terrible. But if I listen to that same audio source in the studio off a CD, it's going to sound great, or as good as it can sound, or how it was originally recorded and intended to be listened to. So it's the wild, wild west as far as listening scenario goes. And I deal with that daily, mastering records, because people are confused about, hey, why does this sound like this? What should I be doing to make my mixes translate better? And those are the things that you learn by trial and error of how they get played back. So, these days there were the volume wars, they called, where everybody's trying to be louder than everybody else. Because when you captured audio on CD, it's literally 16-bit 44.1 WAV file. And when you play that back, a lot of the modern D to A converters, which is digital to analog converters, they can handle that volume, right? But a lot of these digital streaming networks, they can't handle that volume. And why they can't handle it? Because they've already been dumbed down to another format that's now already captured as a distorted version of what the original was. So you already have this really bad sounding piece of audio. Now it's coming through a phone. The D to A converter on your phone is probably worth 25 cents, right? Yeah. But the quality of that converter, the phone might be worth $1,500, but the analog to digital converter is not what, again, like compare that to even a $300 CD player. Like the technology in the CD player is far more superior from a digital to audio converter. It's all getting better all the time, but I mean, those are the things that have evolved over time where, you can never pinpoint anything with any certainty other than this is the studio where we mix this record and this is what we think as a band it should sound like. After that, even when it goes to mastering, it's kind of not what it was, like it's a different animal, and it has to be a different animal to play back on other formats that people can consume. And so, I got to worry about what it sounds like on the phone. I got to worry about what it sounds like in the car. I got to worry about what it sounds like streaming in the phone on the or from the car. And then some people still listen to albums old school off a CD player, off bigger speakers. Some listen on smaller speakers. So it's got to work on all these formats. And it sounds like in this day and age it's not important, but it's very important because it's how people perceive your music and the quality of it. And it's part of the psychological journey of liking it or not. There's an emotional thing that happens when you listen to music, and if it's too bright or too dark, it plays on your emotion. Like I can make you feel different about a song by EQing it wrong. Like a really dark record with no top end, really, really lethargic and really kind of like it kind of gives me a weird feeling. But then something super bright and really loud kind of can be exciting, but it can also be harsh and terrible to listen to. Like if you listen to a Taylor Swift record, that's the epitome of a pop record and a pop mastering and production. It's really bright, really glassy, really loud and in your face. But then you listen to a John Mayer record, right?
Yeah.
Which is really
no
top end. It's really open and big, but sounds what we call like tubby and lethargic. And the bottom end's big and it's weird. One can sound really exciting and the other one can maybe not sound so exciting, but they're both top 10 hits. So you decide whatever you think as an artist of what you want to be. But I'll tell you, most artists don't even know this and they don't think about it. So they rely on who's ever on their team to figure these things out for them and with them. And, you know, if you do enough rock, you know what rock's supposed to sound like and how it's going to translate. You do enough this style of music, you know that. So that's why producers typically get popular for doing a specific style of music because they're kind of experts in that style of music and they keep getting work because that music does well, right? So anyway, that's a very long-winded answer. Yeah.
It's funny that a guy like Rick Rubin, you know, I have no idea how he works except for what I read in interviews. And to me, it sounds like he just shows up, lies on a couch, and then he listens and just kind of tells people what to do. I don't know if that's true, but for whatever it is, it have worked out for him.
Yeah, well, I know people that have worked with him, and like some have been frustrated to the point where they'll never work with him again, and other people just, you know, that are confident enough and know what they're doing, they use him as a sounding board. So think of him as the guy on the street that's going to buy your music or like it or not. And that's his perspective. He's like, I don't want to know about the technical problems. I don't want to know what you're doing under the hood. I just want to hear it and make my...
He's like the consumer.
Decision. Yeah. And again, like, very few music industry people that anybody would work with or trust are like him or in that situation that they're trusted enough to even get involved because it's kind of like your friend giving his opinion on your band. You know what I mean? It's that kind of a vibe. It's that weird, but I also get it because again, over the years, you know, when you just kind of listen to people and I go, I kind of want to know what your dumb friend thinks just as much as you do, the musician, you know, because they're actually like, they don't carry any of the baggage of the recording, the songwriting, that you're the guitar player and you want the guitar really loud. They don't have any of that. They're just going to tell you straight up, oh, I love this. Why? And they'll come up with the weirdest answers. Like they're not
sounds great
people and they have no idea why they like it or whatever. But that's 90% of the world. How many musicians are out there buying records? It's nothing compared to the fans that just love the bands and the music. So if you don't understand that, you can go down the wrong path and focus on the wrong things. It's like, I'll spend 5 hours on a fucking snare drum sound, but I also know it doesn't matter. But it matters for the vibe and the feeling of it, not from a technical perspective. But I need to go through it so I feel good about it, that I've done my job. But I also know that there's a lot of hit records that are out of tune, out of time, and technically are not recorded good. But I love them because I love the artists and I love the songs. A lot of Beatles records, they're 4-track recordings, and they're not technically good. They're just not, by anybody's standards. They're some of the best or most well-known and popular recordings ever recorded in the history of music. So, figure it out. I mean, like you can't figure it out.
Yeah.
You just can't. Like when I go back and listen, when I learned what out of tune is, out of time is, I would then listen to the radio and hear what I loved and hit records, and I couldn't get past the point. It's like, holy shit, I never noticed that guitar is out of tune on that hit song. And it is, or it's out of time, or it's just not a good performance. But it was never on my radar as a kid or a teenager. I just loved the band and I loved the song. And there's something really great about not getting too deep in the weeds, but to make a record, you also have to be deep in the weeds. And you can only really have a big picture idea of it once you've been through it all. It's driven you crazy, and then you come out the other side and you go, I know what's out of tune, I know what's out of time, but I also know what is a great performance, and I also know what's going to work and what isn't going to work. So, yeah, it's just experience doing it. There's not a lot of 12-year-old kids that have that perspective. You got to do this year in, year out to kind of have that insight, you know?
I get that so much. The whole thing, you've done 30 plus albums, and all of a sudden you're on the other side of the fence, and you start noticing that shitty snare or that annoying slapback echo that's on like a bass guitar, something like that, and it ruins an entire album for you. And this, like, when you grew up, I didn't know the difference between a Van Halen album from '92 or '78. I didn't hear a difference.
Yeah.
It was just Van Halen, you know. And now I'm like, it's like being damaged by your environment. You've gone too deep into, like, as you said, not a lot of musicians buy albums. I'm one of those guys that I do buy a few albums a year, but it's mostly stuff I already know what's gonna be like, because I'm just not gonna put myself through the agony of being damaged by some small detail that it's gonna annoy the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Because, and I did this to myself. It's sort of like, it's a little bit sad, really, that I kind of ruined music, like being the music listening, a fan of music for myself by making music.
Yeah, and I bet the only records you buy are the ones that you're literally a super fan of, and that's it.
Yes,
like, you love
exactly. Alice Cooper, and like, you know.
And that's true for everybody, believe it or not. I mean, like, if you're not a real fan, you'll just listen on Spotify, and that's why it's important to know, do you have 500 fans? Do you have 5,000 fans? Do you have 50,000 fans that really like you and buy your stuff? Because then you have a career, and you need a career to keep doing what you're doing, you know, and understanding that. But it's difficult to do, and it was very difficult to do in a day, in an age of streaming, when that was everybody's focus, especially the record companies, you know. But it's coming around again, because people are understanding that you can have a career with 1,000 fans, 2,000 fans. You just need to sell them something for $100 a year, and you can make $100,000. You know, like, it's not rocket science to do the math on it, but it is very difficult to offer something compelling year in, year out to your super fans that they want to buy for $100. You know, whether it's a concert ticket or a T-shirt or a combination of all those things, but yeah, that's, you know, that's just the business part of this, you know. Like,
I think like something like Spotify, for example, it's really nice for me, because I don't feel too invested in Spotify. I don't care if it sounds fantastic. It's just a nice. That's probably the only place I listen to new music, where I put on a playlist. So it does serve a purpose.
Yeah, you know it for what it is, and it's exactly as advertised. And look, I'll tell you, non-musicians, they don't give a shit what it sounds like, and that's what led to this. I mean, if nobody liked the sound of Spotify, nobody would listen to Spotify, and Spotify would go out of business. So take notice of that. Like, nobody gives a shit. Like, MP3s are fine for 99% of the people listening. You know,
including me.
Even what I was going to say, I mean, you could play an MP3 versus a high-res digital file for a lot of musicians, and they wouldn't know the difference, you know? And I mean, like, okay, fair enough, but that's a niche market to people that are called audiophiles, you know? Like, so, I mean, it all exists, you know what I mean? You've got your fans that are just going to stream. You've got your fans that want everything that you've ever done and will ever do, and everything in between. So that's the reality of it. That's where we're at. So, yeah.
Yeah, like just a final thing that that this whole talk got me thinking was that one thing I do really appreciate about, well, Harem Scarem, for example, in this day and age, is that you guys still put out albums. And I think I think I read, it was like an interview with Tommy Lee, maybe, from Motley Crue, and where he was like, yeah, you know, we're done, like, with albums, you know, we're just going to be putting out singles. And I just really don't like that format. I get why some do, but I've always been an album guy.
Yeah, the single is supposed to be the trailer for an album, you know. It's like
it's the teaser, you know, to give you a taste and what you can expect.
Yeah, look, a lot of those guys, they look at it like maybe I have a few more good years of, at my age of going out and touring. I'm not going to spend a year in the studio making an album
I get that too.
where there's
Yeah.
really no outlet like what they're used to. Those guys used to make records and sell 20 million records, right?
Yeah.
And the thought of selling 50,000 records as opposed to 10 million records or whatever, they're like, yeah, I'm not up for that. But I will go out on the road where we make $500,000 a show.
Yeah.
That's what I'll spend my time doing, and that's what they go.
I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Well, again, like that's a business decision based on your reality at that time. If Motley Crue can go out and do a festival and make $2 million headlining a festival, then that's what they're going to do. And I mean that's where
But
they're
I
at.
also see it with a lot of. I also see. Yeah, but I also see it with a lot of current artists, like upcoming or like
they can't
new
get a
artists.
recording budget to record anything good. I mean, who's given them money to go in the studio, or do they even have the tools and the knowledge to do it themselves? And if they don't, then they're relying on somebody. And if you want quality people, you have to pay them. Still, like things didn't get that much cheaper. Studio time, super cheap and evaporated, but only if you know how to do it. Right? Like we're making records on our laptops now. Like, I mean, I had invested, I had an SSL console. Like it was, it's $1 million console, like up until 4 years ago. Now I'm mixing in the box, in a room in my house, but I had a purposely built recording studio built by Westlake Audio from Los Angeles. And if you were to try and build that today, it would cost you $4 million to build the studio that we made Harem Scarem records in. But I think I'm making better Harem Scarem records today than I was on that gear. So it's a sign of the times. Technology always wins if you know how to use it. But to your point, it doesn't mean because you can play guitar really well that you know how to make a record or that you should be making a record on your own. You need a song, you need a way to record it, and you need a way to get it over the finish line that's compelling to people. And that's scary for people that had money back in the day and that had a team of people that was willing and able to facilitate that for them. So Motley Crue had a record label that would throw millions of dollars. That probably wasn't even a budget. They were just like, spend as much as you want, right? Like, we're going to make fucking $100 million, thought the label.
Yeah.
You could spend 10 million. We don't give a shit. Now, that doesn't even exist. Like, so who in that camp is going to write the song and record it and put it together? And I don't know. Look,
exactly.
they could do it if they wanted to do it. But like my earlier point, that's not on the top of the list of things to do for the rest of my life. If you're them, they're like, let's go out and tour. Let's hit the summer festivals and let's make.
They had those big albums
this summer.
You can still have the spectacle of that, but I mean, making those big albums where you just ordered 18 stacks of JCM 800s, and recorded that with 32 mics. That's kind of over. Now you get a quad cortex.
Yes,
it's not going to be as romantic, but it's going to get the job done. But it's not really the same thing, I can see how that feels off, or would feel off.
Yeah, and we're used to doing it the old way, and that doesn't really exist anymore. So a lot of them are just like, we don't do that anymore. But I know for a fact from talking to a lot of these bands about doing projects, is like they don't have the budget anymore. Nobody's offering the money to go record a new record.
No.
Yeah.
Not in that way anyway.
Just talking about Motley Crue was just wasn't it? Didn't they record a single where they covered Madonna's "Like a Virgin" or "Material Girl" or something like that?
They did for the movie, yeah.
Really?
That was Madonna's song. I think it was like a Virgin. They thought that was fun to do because they didn't really see Vince Neil as much as Virgin, but yeah, they did record that song for. It actually worked out pretty well. It was a fun version.
Oh, cool.
For that Netflix movie, The Dirt. Yeah, you can check it out.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Harry, this has been such a pleasure to speak and hang out with you.
Awesome.
I learned a lot. That was fucking awesome, man. So just as a final thing, to anybody who might want to get in touch with you or check you out, whether it's music or for studio work, I'll link everything in the description. But is there anything you want to inform people about?
Well, like I've mentioned, we're working on a new record, a new Harem Scarem record. We think it's out in February of 2027, and then we are going out and we will be playing probably like March, April, May of next year. We're already booking some dates. I think we're coming to Sweden on either April 23rd or 24th. And is it Gothenburg?
Yeah,
Gothenburg. That's easy enough for me to get to.
It's a Wings of AOR festival.
Okay.
I don't think they've announced yet, so I don't know why I'm saying that. But
we can bleep it out if you want to.
yeah.
Well, yeah. No.
We'll
first out
cheers
with
for
the
the
news
heads
here.
There'll be some announcement at some point. No, but we're just talking to them now, and we're going to go and do that. And a few other things in Europe around April. And yeah, that's really it. Yeah, all good.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much.
That was
man.
that was like my only question. Are you coming to Europe anytime soon? And yes,
Yeah.
you are. So
Oh yeah.
cheers.
For sure.
I'm happy.